I'm really excited to be here, and this week, November 10th, we celebrate our 1-year anniversary with Senior Cup of Joe. So Senior Cup of Joe is a Facebook Live show that I co-host with 2 other senior industry professionals. We had realized that there was a void of people knowing how to access information in the senior space. And more important to us was free. Colorado Springs is a hub of great resources. A couple of weeks ago, Colorado was named the 3rd age-friendly state in the nation, meaning that many different pillars that we do here in the state of Colorado: accessibility for seniors, walkability, access to nature. One of the big pillars is intergenerational, this intergenerational idea of many generations and children interacting with seniors. So why I started, when I was at Viewpoint for 9 months, every time I had families come there was many tears in my office and on tours, because a lot of people, families, siblings, grown children, power of attorneys, they were maybe thrust into this role of caregiver, meaning mom and dad are fine, one of them has a fall, they're in the hospital, and now the hospital is telling them they can't return home. And with their insurance and Medicare, all of those things, in 20 days you have to have a plan. Lots of times families are flying in from out of state, out of country, and they're making these decisions in 20 days. So where do you go in all this information? So a lot of times there was tears, there's family dynamics. I have families that come in that there's 8 siblings. Everybody has a different idea, they're in different parts of the country. There's co-power of attorneys, there's a lot of things going on. Emotions are running high. Maybe one parent just passed away and now we need to make a plan for the other parent. So all this looked familiar to me in my office. And why did it look familiar to me? I noticed the fear, I noticed all the dynamics going on. I had not worked out in the work world for a couple of years. Years ago, when my children were born, I am the parent of 2 children, each born with a different congenital heart defect. So that was very startling. I have always been in the workforce, and so I had to navigate that on my own. And that was very reminiscent of what I see families doing here. You don't know what you don't know because you've never been there. If you've never had ill children or never had to face that, then you have to kind of research and get your bearings and your experience right there in that minute. And so I saw that, and I went back in my mind's eye and I said, after my children were diagnosed with congenital heart defects, my child, when we were waiting for brain surgery at the age of 5, we found out she had a brain tumor. And so then my plan was shifted, and now I am the sole, because my husband is the breadwinner and does a dangerous job, I now stop doing my job to care for that one child, and the other one is also then born with a congenital heart defect, fevers of 105.7 every 6 weeks, and I have to navigate both of them. And I'm also a police wife. And my husband is on the motorcycle unit, has an accident, so all of these 3 things are going on. So what I did, what was safety for me in this anxiety-ridden time, I researched everything I could get my hands on. Knowledge is power. And when I was in the hospital, I noticed that the things I taught myself were not accessible to other parents. Meaning, let me give you an example. I would look through all my kids' medical records. When we were traveling, we had to go to Washington, D.C. One of my children was accidentally overdosed in the state of Colorado, so we went to my home. I'm from the East Coast. So I found out that continuum of care paperwork is free if you're going on for continuum of care. The very next day, I took a mom that I befriended on the head trauma ward with me to that same person and looked at them, and they were trying to charge her. So then I went back to this idea of in the senior space, and it's very confusing to navigate, and I saw people's emotions. So I came up with this idea in my mind's eye that I wanted to get other people in the senior industry, and I wanted you to be able to access all that information that's here. My two co-hosts are also in the senior space. One is Discover Goodwill, James Doherty. They could not be here today. And my other is Carissa Smith from Forbush Legal. We didn't know until we got together. Well, we knew each other and we're very active in the senior space, but we very much wanted Senior Cup of Joe to be exactly what it is. It is not an advertorial platform. We host guests that are informational to family members and to seniors. We've had CSPD on, safety tips. We've talked about the warning signs of stroke. We've talked about incontinence, all of these different things. So we do it very cheaply. We each had to go to each one of our bosses and say, we need to represent it. And our mission on Senior Cup of Joe is educational, accessibility, free resources. So all of our bosses let us do that, and we represent ourselves on Senior Cup of Joe in this industry, and we speak out in the public. We do it very cheaply. We use it from our smartphones, and no money is ever changed hands from any one of our companies. It's just us. We are Senior Cup of Joe. So we really want to be an informational source in this space, and that's why we started it. And